something happened to me and I kept it off of the social media and I kept it secret. And I really didn't want to tell anybody what happened until I got a clear understanding of why what happened. Okay. So when I was in Toronto, right, I went to I was checking everything out. I was having a good time. And as you know, in Toronto, there are legal edibles there, right? And I like to use edibles to help me sleep and just chill out, right? Especially at the tail end of this trip, I was so tired. I was so just messed up and just like, oh, I'm fucking just want to go home. Just want to go home and go back to Japan and just get on my life, right? So I was there, and when you take an edible, right, the normal dosage is 10 milligrams, typically, right, per one thing. And so I've been in California. I had been in Las Vegas, and then some of the guys from the Purple Pill podcast gave me some crazy strong edibles. And so I had, I've been taking edibles here and there and just kind of like, chilling out, right? And so what happened was I went to this show, or went to the shop, and this guy was like, hey, you should try these edibles. They're really cool. Like, they're only available in Canada. I was like, cool, whatever. And so each edible was 200 milligrams, right? And so I didn't know how strong 200 milligrams is or whatever. And so I was just like, yeah, like, the guy was like, be careful. I was like, shut up, you're Canadian, right? And I ate like 4 of these 200 milligram edibles. And so then, they hit me at nighttime, whatever the case may be. And so I took them, and I'm feeling whatever. And so then I went to bed, right? So I woke up in the morning, and something was happening. I couldn't catch my breath. So I woke up and I felt like a huge gassy kind of pain in my stomach. And then, when you take a deep breath like this, right? And then at the end of the breath, you can feel the oxygen kind of catch in your lungs, right? So what was happening to me was I would take the deep breath, but at the end, it would probably only catch like 5 to 10% of the oxygen. So I felt like I was dying. I felt like I couldn't breathe, right? And so my heart rate was through the roof, and it was becoming extremely difficult for me to read. So I'm in this fucking Airbnb, right? I'm putting on my clothes. I'm freaking out. It's 6:30 in the morning, and I can barely breathe. I go downstairs and I see this guy, this young kid, all right? So, and this really, like, this was all an enlightening moment for me, all this shit that happened. So there's this fucking 19-year-old kid, this little Indian kid, which, by the way, I didn't know Toronto was the fucking second capital of India with all fucking Indian people there. This kid is looking at me. He's probably 19 years old. This kid is a gigantic pussy. And he sees me freaking out, and he is paralyzed. And this is the security guard on site. Okay. So you have this little fucking pussy of a kid who is not a man. You could tell he has no fucking backbone, and he's just a complete fucking worm of an individual. He looks at me like I'm inconveniencing him. And I'm like, look, motherfucker, call the ambulance right now. So he calls the ambulance, and I'm standing there, and I can feel myself losing consciousness. And I really think at this point, I'm going to fucking die. I'm going to fucking die. in this goddamn fucking Airbnb with fucking Kerpal here who can't even make a goddamn call to the ambulance because he's too much of a fucking pussy, right? So I'm here. Kerpal is freaking out and not doing his fucking job. And I'm just like, okay, cool. Like, here I am, 37 years old, going to die of mystery causes, right? I had no idea that it was related to the edibles, right? So I'm feeling guilty because I want to call my mom, and I'm thinking, like, shit, and what I'm going to do, like, call my mom and gas to death on FaceTime and fucking just, you know, freak her out. So I'm just thinking, I'm on this on my own. So he calls the fucking ambulance, and I'm just thinking to myself, breathe, 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 right? Just focus on breathing. So they put me in the ambulance and they start giving me oxygen and shit, and I still can't breathe. I get to the hospital and they fucking put me in front of this fucking doctor. This black bitch, this woman was so rude and nasty to me. And she was just like, just so cold. Like at this point where I'm just suffering and feeling terrible, all I'm wanting is some human warmth and affection to comfort me because I'm fucking literally think I'm going to die. The only person who gave me like a smidgen of that was like this guy that was the paramedic. This guy was like relatively nice to me, right? So I'm there. This doctor is just being a fucking total cunt to me. Nasty bitch. And mouthing off to me. She's like, the EKG says you're fine. Everything says you're fine. She's like, I don't know why you're acting like this, but you need to stop. And I'm like, I'm sorry to inconvenience you with a medical emergency and you being a doctor. I apologize. Okay. Do you have a corner I could go and fucking die in so I could just let you get on with your day today? She was so fucking rude and such a nasty bitch, dude. And so what they did, like, they didn't have a proper room to put me in. So they put me in this corridor. Okay. And this is where the message for you comes into place out there, guys. Okay. They put me in the corridor and I'm in there with this woman. She's probably 70, 80 something years old, right? They're neglecting this woman and she just starts screaming at the top of her lungs. Help! Help me! Help me! Help! I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Help me. Help me. And she's screaming at the top of her lungs. Okay. And I'm seeing this and I'm there and I'm just thinking like, good Lord, like this woman has no loved ones. This woman is here in the fucking Canadian health system and no one cares for her. No one fucking is taking care of her. And this woman is like literally just screaming to like for help. And she's so desperate that that's what she's doing. Right. And it was so heavy. Finally, they come somebody there to comfort her and take care of her. And then some other doctor comes. This white lady. She was nice. And she came over and she was like, okay. She's like, what happened was you took too much of these edibles. And what it did was it short-circuited your nervous system into like you having a panic attack. And that's what's happened. Your body is reacting to like panic. And she's like, everything's going to be okay, but it's just as a time thing and you just need time. And at this point I was starting, this was like probably, I've been in the hospital now about 2 hours. I had been in this hallway with this screaming lady for like 30, 40 minutes. Right. And so they transfer me to like another waiting room to like chill out. So now I'm like in a waiting room and like it's like a room and there's like those like curtain rooms they make. So they put me in this like curtain room And then I hear my neighbor next to me. Okay. Um, and it's an older man. Okay. So now this man is in his probably 80s or something. And he is literally screaming at the top of his lungs and like fighting with the medical staff and fighting with the nurses and saying, I know my rights. I know my rights. Just let me die. I hate you people. Fuck off. Yeah. And just like fighting and stuff. Right. And so this guy's going crazy. He literally rips off his clothes and he's like, just like laying there. And he's just going crazy. So at one point, I was like hearing him and I'm just like, this guy sounds like he's feral. So I just like, get out of bed and I go look, I peek and I look in the fucking curtains and I realize like, he's covered in scabs and, again, no family, nobody there to take care of him, nothing. Right. And so I'm sitting there and I'm just thinking to myself, Jesus Christ, bro, this is not how I want to die. This is not how I want to live my life. And I'll tell you what, okay? And I realized this. All the money I have, all the clout, all the accolades or whatever bullshit people think is fucking important, okay? None of that shit could have saved me at that moment in my Airbnb when I was literally on death's fucking doorstep. And none of that shit will save you guys either. And none of that shit matters. Like, I get it. You got to get your money right. You got to take care of yourself. You got to pay your fucking bills. I get it. Right. But it made me realize that if you don't have family, if you don't have people that love you, if you don't have good, solid connections around you, you're fucked. It's only a matter of time. Like, literally, you're fucked. It's only a matter of time before you're in a situation where you're completely fucked. That was the only point in my trip that I did not have immediate access to a trusted member of the Masculine Empowerment Network with me. I was in Vegas. Me and Sam were bunking together. We had an Airbnb. In Orlando, I was with my friends. In Dallas, I was with Brent Caldwell. In Miami, I had the Fresh and Fit boys and the whole squad down there. In Santa Barbara, I had the team as well. Thor, everybody was there. But it made me realize, man, this lie that people think that you can just live this life and be this like forever single person and rely on nobody, and I'm just this fucking standalone individual. And I don't need people. I don't need anybody around me. It's bullshit. Because everybody in this little corner of the men's self-improvement side of the internet, you know what they say? They say like, oh, well, she's a single cat lady and she's going to die alone. Ha, 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 ha. But you guys have to remember, for every single cat lady there is out there, there's a single dude also that's also going to die alone. You do realize that, right? You guys do realize that, right? And that was a big eye-opening moment for me. It was a big life-changing moment for me because I realized that it's super important to have a family. It's super important to build somebody, something, you want to build something with somebody.